Hello, everyone. My name is Desmond Thorne. I am a programmer at Newfest. Thank you so much for tuning in to the obituary of Tunde Johnson, the amazing, brilliant film. I'm so excited to be here for this Q&A with the filmmakers today. We have the director of the film, Ali Leroy, and we have the writer of the film, Stanley Kalu. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hey,
So at first, I just wanted to say before we get into the questions, thank you so much for making this film. It was so impactful to me when I saw it that I like felt it in my bones afterwards. And so much of this year has been and has felt like one big funeral in so many ways. I mean, we've lost so many people to a new pandemic that is affecting this country, as well as a pandemic that is pretty much sewn into the fabric of this country for hundreds of years. This film makes it so clear in every sense that it doesn't matter where we are or what we do. We could even be sleeping at home in our beds. And this particular pandemic of police brutality is always a threat to our lives as Black people in the United States. So, in this time when we aren't allowed to be in large gatherings and see family and friends and be able to properly grieve these losses in our community, it's still important to have conversations with art like this in order to really process this grief and for people outside of our experience to hopefully come to a closer place of understanding and also engage in conversation. So, again, thank you. Thank you so much for this film. It is absolutely brilliant and visceral and just everything. I want to know from Stanley, what was the genesis of this project for you as a writer?
Um, I guess I can, I can start at the beginning. So for me, I'm foreign, I'm from Nigeria, and coming into America was a very difficult experience because I had lived 18 years of my life as a majority. So when I came in, it was extremely traumatic to suddenly be depersonalized and to become this ideal monolithic black man,
Mm,
and stripped of kind of any like sentience, in a strange way. And in the same vein, you know, uh, coming here and like seeing like cyclical violence against people that look like me, was also very difficult because I didn't quite understand it. Um, so so from there, I think it was sophomore year. I was at USC, and the second year that you're in school, they ask you to write a feature, and it kind of just came to me in a moment, like the idea of a cycle of police brutality, um, timely movie. I was just sat listening to Frank Ocean, listening to
yes.
Ted Blonde, um,
Yeah.
and it kind of all came at me in a single moment. So from there, I wrote the thing. I wrote Tunde in one draft. I was like 19 at the time, and then
Mm.
when I was 21, I won the $1 million screenplay competition, and that's how I got with Ali and went to the producers. How this entire process really began of making the movie, and yeah, that's kind
That's
of
amazing.
what happened.
That's amazing. And Ali, how did you get involved in the project as a director?
well, I was one of the judges of the launch, the screenplay competition,
Mm,
and while we were, in the process of sorting through the finalists, trying to determine which film would, ultimately be the winner. I mean, there was, the content of the film was one thing. There was certainly, a number of scripts that, had some great and interesting stories. This one was special, I thought, and I also thought this was a film, given what some of the other material was, that was least likely to be made because of the complex nature of the subject matter and then the execution. But I was a huge advocate for it for those reasons. And I mean, ultimately, with the other judges, we, came to a decision, and, Stanley was announced as a winner, and I walked away. I didn't know there was any interest in having me direct this thing. And it was, a short while later, maybe a month or so, the producers, Zach and Jason, called me up and asked me, to consider it, since I was, had been such an advocate for it. And I mean, it was a no brainer for me. I'm like, yes, absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I put it to you like this, and all right, I'm gonna go first world problem. I don't know that people need to hear this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I wanted to do this film so badly that I had no idea what I was getting paid until after we got done shooting.
Oh, word! Wow,
I
wow,
literally, I never asked.
wow. That's
I don't
amazing.
know. I was like, just, I don't know, whatever it is, just figure it out. Let's do it. Uh,
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
I think sometime like 2 or 3 months ago, I finally asked Zach, I was like, how much did I get paid for this thing?
That's
But yeah, it was
amazing.
just like it was just really something that I wanted to be involved with, and I was really honored that they asked me to come aboard. So that's how I got into it.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering, you are so well known for your work in comedy. Everybody Hates Chris, Head of State, Down to Earth, all of that wonderful work. So, did any of that work in comedy really inform your process when you're approaching like more visceral and dramatic work such as this?
Well, the simple answer is before something is funny, it's not funny.
Amen. Amen. That is so true.
so so I mean, literally, just as a writer in the comic space, and I've been a comedian, been a performer. It's like I've been, addressing issues, and and social subject matters, and been trading, and having conversations in that space for a long time.
Mm,
But I mean, there comes a point in any of our storytelling, even when you're telling jokes, it's still storytelling. But sometimes it's just like, what? I don't know if people need to laugh here,
right. Right.
so this material deserved a particular sort of touch, so it wasn't like this major stretch to find a way to let this material breathe. It literally was just, that part where you usually try to get somebody to laugh, don't do that.
We're not gonna. Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Let it be uncomfortable, let it be,
Absolutely.
you know um yeah, just let people sit and have to kind of figure out how they feel about something, but don't give them the convenient exit of a laugh to
Totally.
walk away from something. And I just thought that this material really deserved to sit with people and let them make some decisions about how they want to live, who they want to be.
Absolutely. And Stanley, you being so young, what kind of like mentorship and conversations did you have with Ali in terms of him kind of like guiding things along?
Um, I think that's an interesting question. Um, when it comes to me and Ali, it's funny 'cause we're like legitimately friends.
Yeah,
We're like legitimately friends and like hang out completely
that's
outside
wonderful.
of this context. So I think at first I was really precious about my work. This was the first screenplay that I'd ever written. So he taught me to be less precious about work, less
Mm,
precious about words, to open myself up to possibilities. Um,
totally.
when we were on set, he really embraced me and embraced my perspective. Where before scenes, before like every scene, both of us would talk to the actors in tandem about like the meaning of the scene and like how it should go. And from a comedy perspective, like and applying that to life, like he taught me a lot about improv, uh,
Mm,
how how to move and how to direct like jazz. Um,
Wow.
and then through that, I mean, post post movie, he's just really been like a great guide to me about the industry and about how I am to move, and then in a deeper sense, has been very very vital to my personal growth as a human being. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's pretty all encompassing, I'd say.
That's wonderful. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that so much. And I'm wondering, speaking of things that y'all did on set, was there anything that y'all did with the actors or with the crew, kind of like top of day, end of day, between takes to kind of, release some of the release some of the emotions, the energy that was happening on set with material like this?
I mean, there were certainly spaces and times when the actors in particular needed some time to build up to some of the more emotional stuff they needed to
Mm,
do, but also to come down.
yeah, yeah.
uh and I wasn't 100% aware of every instance where that occurred. There were one or two instances, specifically with Spencer, when he was coming down from a scene, and we shot, and it's a cut, and I'm just walking over to him to say, hey man, really really great scene. And then I realized, oh, he's still in this moment, and he's got to transition from being the character and all of that emotion
Yeah,
into, all right, now how do I get back to being myself again? So I mean, certainly with some actors, that's it's a high bar, you
totally.
know, to where they have to go to be authentic and expressive in some of those spots. And so, you need to be very respectful of that space. For me, shooting it, there was certainly a couple of instances, especially with some of, the material and, the violence that it stems from, where it's very difficult to walk this fine line
Mm,
between creating a piece of art, but also recognizing everything that you're drawing from it. And when you're shooting, it can feel and be very immediate. So I certainly had a couple of tough moments as well.
yeah.
Um, but just in terms of the larger environment on the set, and the crew, personally, I just tried to start most days by really kind of reinforcing this idea that everybody who was working on this show was there because they wanted to be, you
Mhm.
know and as much as we could is very important to just like establish a community of trust,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And yeah, and so when I say that, it is like this sort of top down attitude. I try to listen to people about the things that they have concerns about that they need to do, you
Right.
know so from an actor to a wardrobe person to sound to catering, everybody's trying to do their best job. And
Yeah.
so when people are saying, here's what I need in order to get done the work that I need to do for you, like, here's how I can help you. And
Right.
I mean, literally there, and I'll say this, one of the most upsetting moments we had on set was from an outsider.
Hmm.
um, yeah, we were staging a scene, and it was something ultimately that we did not use. However, um, one of the extras that we had hired to come onto the set, came into a very close and a very delicate environment and said a couple of things that were like beyond inappropriate.
Wow.
Like, I mean, for me, it was like, get this person away from me right now,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
because there will be charges. Like, it was
Right.
it was literally that bad. and
Ooh.
and the thing for me was, there wasn't a pose, but I need my actors to feel safe,
Absolutely.
right? And so if with some of the more difficult material they have to do, if they can't, if they can't show up and perform and do what they need to do and feel like, they got a circle of trust around them and barriers and some safety. So I'm just speaking up because, yeah, you about to ruin the whole thing. And I can't let that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Wow.
but other than that, yeah, we just, it really was just about building an environment of trust and letting people, addressing them in terms of what they need, letting them say what they need and trying to give it to them.
Absolutely. And, speaking of our lead actor of the film, it's such an important role to cast and find the perfect person to play this role. So, what kind of energy were you looking for in an actor when trying to cast Tunde Johnson?
I don't know. Stanley was there the entire time, and
Yeah, for
yeah,
both of you, yeah.
we looked at a number of different actors, and Steven Silver came in. And honestly, here's what I remember about Steven's audition is that he had on a really weird pair of shoes. But it was something about
Yeah.
his temperament, his physicality,
Yeah.
and so they say this about, a lot of times about acting. Uh they're like, yeah, that the audition doesn't start in the room. The audition starts when you get out of the car,
Mm-hmm. That's
right?
real.
So literally, like the energy that Stephen brought into the space, I can't say that he was making some attempt to embody this idea, but he just had a very determining, clear, but also like vulnerable sensibility about him.
Mm,
And we did chemistry tests. We worked with Steven and some other actors who worked as Soren. And then we did Spencer Neville working with some other actors as possible Tundes. And when we got Spencer and Steven together, it was like, it was really great. And
Yeah.
then when we went to shoot, Spencer took it up a notch
mm.
because when he auditioned, his hair was like a darker brown,
Mm.
right?
Ah,
Yeah, he was like
yeah.
it was like a darker brown hair, and he really looked like, like more of a high school jock in a simple kind of way. But I would tease him because he asked could he dye his hair blonde to
Hmm.
do the part. And I was like, okay, sure. So we did some tests, and he finally came away with this color. And I would tease him. I'm like this dude is devastatingly handsome,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And so the thing, what I loved about it is that in the first frames of the film, we're looking at Soren,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And love it or hate it, like Spencer Neville had like that Brad Pitt, handsome,
Yes.
devastating Robert
Yes.
Redford good looks. I'm like,
Yes.
when I looked at that picture of him, I felt like, oh, somebody's in love with this dude. I don't know who it is.
Exactly. 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 The
Like
black and
somebody's
white, the
in, yeah,
waves.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. And so I'm just saying that that's what Spencer brought to the table, you know,
Totally.
above,
Totally.
it's like, yeah, we had an idea about how you're going to act it, but just how you're going to be it was something else. And both
Absolutely.
Spencer and Steven just, kicked it up a notch.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that. And I'm wondering from uh, Stanley, I love that you talked about kind of like, you mentioned jazz and Ali teaching you jazz on set in terms
Right.
of like rhythms and such.
Right.
I feel like the script also has a very specific rhythm to it.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get to that place with it, in terms of like drafting and everything?
I think that's pretty inherent to my creative style. Like I came
Mm,
and Ali kind of helped me understand it because like for me like I when I'm writing like I always say that I'm not thinking about the next word or do you know what I'm saying
absolutely.
I'm quite literally like thinking about syntax and like how to break up the word and like what how that attack like I'm really hearing sounds like I'm not
Absolutely.
really thinking about yeah sentences or English.
the flow and the feel.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Like, it has to feel a certain way. It has to like drum a certain way. So I mean, in terms of like, the original draft that like won the thing already had that. Now, when we were going into the rewrites, over time, it became, it's just a sharpening thing,
Yeah, absolutely.
like I had inherent rhythm, and we were minimizing and just like making sure that everything that was happening was as sharp as possible, and as clean as possible, and as like communicative as possible. Because sometimes
Absolutely.
I get into the weeds of esoteric. Like I'll just go, just,
Yes.
just be. So,
Yes.
so yeah.
Absolutely.
Stanley has a lot of words floating around in his brain, but he doesn't always need all of them.
All the way. Exactly.
I love that, chop it down, slim it down,
Yeah,
shape it and everything like that. That's
yeah,
the best part. I love that part of it.
yeah.
So we are getting a few audience questions.
Cool. Okay.
Let's see what this first one is coming in. So Medha asks, this was so powerful. Do you have plans for getting the film out there more? I guess in terms of like, further distribution, streaming,
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah, our producer Zach Green is working on a distribution deal right now. So fingers crossed. We're hoping first quarter next year we may be on the streaming platforms, et cetera. So
Awesome.
that's what we're working towards. Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Great. Another question from the audience. All right, Michael asked, can you talk about music choice and if you both collaborated on that? I'm glad Michael asked because that's something I
Yeah,
wanted to ask you
certainly
too.
did.
That's great.
We certainly did. I mean the music was like really, really important. I think to both of us, and it was just a lot about like pairing like modern with like things that felt timeless. Like we kept we kept going back to this idea of like what would make this feel timeless. And like and like the music choices come from like, I mean, there's like really old music like from 5 years ago, 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's really like pointed music from like a year ago, and like making sure, because like I know my initial inclination was like I want to be as new, as fresh as possible. Um,
Absolutely.
and as we got to talking, and as we got to selecting, we found like this wonderful like tapestry of even music that people are like already aware of for context. Like I think about like the Waka Flocka song that that plays, which is like I was listening to that in middle school, but is like such like a distinct party song, that like it functions. You see what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
like that.
Yeah, we went back and forth about a lot of things, and my interest, there's one way of approaching music where it feels like a soundtrack and it's like this pop culture moment, and that's certainly a way of going about things. But it was very important to me that all of the songs, in the way that they needed to, spoke to story
Absolutely.
over trend. Right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's easy to put together, you can get a bunch of hit songs and put together a soundtrack, and then there's just all this fun music playing, and there's nothing
Right.
wrong with that,
Right.
unless it becomes the soundtrack movie.
Exactly.
And it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, we're not making the soundtrack movie. it
Mm-mm.
should it should really feel like all of these songs help to elevate and illuminate the material and help to set and create mood. And I mean, what Stanley was really great about, as he talks about old 5-year-old songs. Like, yeah, there's a song in it that's 50 years old, but it fit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, but I have a very eclectic sensibility, and just as bringing an imprint as a filmmaker, you want that to be a part of it as well. That the character
Totally.
of the music in the film is expressed in a particular way. So, but you know,
Absolutely.
Stanley came up with some amazing choices and really helped me in shaping, you know, what some of the selections were. So it was very collaborative.
I love that. I think music is very, very important in film, and my favorites are the ones that use music to tell the story and help enhance the story. And then the
Yeah.
other side is, Stevie Wonder, Jungle Fever, like an artist doing the whole
Right,
soundtrack.
right.
So I love how y'all use music in that way to continue to use another medium to tell the story.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a smart way to do it. Last audience question. Jar Alexandra asks, such a fantastic and beautiful cast. What was that process like of casting?
It was a knife fight. We just got a bunch of actors in a room, threw some knives on the floor.
Yes, yes, that's how you do it.
Actually, I was actually just having this conversation like before, before this is actually really bothering me. Before we got on, and like the wonderful thing about the actors that were chosen and like came in was that I learned, that a great actor like is like a human being that can become 10 times their size and like fill a room
Mm,
and then like somehow like suck back into a human being and just throughout the process like we the script and the team around that, shout out to Barbara Fiorentino, um we just had like really really incredible choices of
mm,
of actors and like the process of that, like Ali was describing, like his ability to like make sure that it wasn't that like the actors weren't just meant to hit their mark. It was, can you do it with your backs against each other? Can you do it turned around? Can you like let's see you guys do it this way? Even so much so of them like making the actors do the wrong thing just to test range. Um,
word.
really really like helped me as I like continue to film make and write and direct stuff. Um, because like testing range is something that I've never heard of. And I thought that was like really remarkable.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I
Yeah.
mean, it was really great. The only two things that were particularly interesting to me, Stephen and Spencer both were in the room and did a lot of their work together, which was great. Joey Polari, who ended up getting the role of Charlie, came in to read for Soren.
Mm,
But the thing about him was he wasn't as good a Soren as Spencer, but I thought he was great.
mm.
Um, and I ended up offering him the role of Charlie because I just wanted him in the picture. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Joey's first audition was over Zoom. I was in a car.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
like no, like he was coming in and I had to leave. So by the time he showed up, I was gone. But I pulled over in my car and watched his audition over the phone.
That's
But he was just
amazing.
really, really great, and we ended up using and Nicola Peltz, who ended up getting the Marley role. Um, that was off tape.
Yeah.
Like we
Wow.
looked at her. Listen, it was just this. Her face. When you
Yeah.
talk about like the ability to transcend, her face just did so much work. She's so super expressive. She's got
Mm-hmm.
amazing features,
Yeah.
but she knows how to use them.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
like, yeah, she was just really amazing. And then we ended up going through processes with a bunch of other actors. But for that group, our what I call our lead four
Yeah.
actors, really, it was a great process, and they all just brought their A game, like really fantastic.
Yeah, they're all so, so great in the film. So great in the film. And it's great to see young actors doing work with such depth, and like really going for it. And like
Yeah,
you said, especially like Marley's expressions. I'm just like, how are you so young and you just like know how to do
Right.
all that and everything? We have one more question from the audience, I believe. Emily Brennan asked, did you have any therapeutic processes or equivalent of an intimacy coordinator for the more traumatic scenes?
No. Again, the approach to the material, my approach to it at least, and also the rapport that I had worked very hard to establish with the actors, gave them space to speak up about things that they felt good about, and address things that they didn't feel so good about, things that felt proper or inadequate or whatever it was, and as close as we could get to someone who could listen to them and make sure they were okay. I would say that was me,
Hmm.
and I listened to them. That's all. I made sure they were okay. Are you okay with this? If you're not okay, how can we get to something that feels okay? And so
Right.
because we did have a lot of, we had intimacy things, there were things around violence, there was a lot of physical contact. And so it really was, again, the atmosphere of trust. Are you okay with what's going on? What
Yeah,
do you like about it? What don't you like about it? What do you need to do to deliver your best performance? How can we help?
Absolutely.
And so in that way, with both the guys are doing some very incredible and intimate work. Same thing with Nicola, with Marley. She was doing some very intimate work, and literally I just had to talk to him. What do you need? Are you okay?
That's
You
great.
tell me when. I'm going to push you to where I think I want you to go, but you tell me if you're okay going there, and if so, then we'll keep going. And that worked.
That's great. And one final question. I know we're running super low on time, but I want to kind of tie everything together. I think when the protests began this summer, there was a kind of sense, and it seemed like there were a lot of promises of support for Black creators in this industry. And I'm wondering, now that we are in October, and what kind of support would you like to see as Black creators from this industry?
like actual support, like very
Thank
simple.
you. Yeah.
Like honestly, like a lot of that stuff is like lip service, and like
Yeah.
everyone knows it because like people try to defend themselves from like being called racist and like
Mhm.
participating in like systematic racism. And I think a lot of it is performative and it
Yes.
shows.
Yeah.
Um, and I think when it comes down to support, actually back up your statements. Like, don't just say that you're going to support Black creators. Don't just say that you're going to support like like anyone that's an other and put it on your Instagram so that you seem progressive. Like, actually do it. Like, actually, like it's very like I'm very frustrated about like
Yeah.
that kind of thing because like it's just blatant lies. Like, it's just lies. So like, stop lying and like
Amen.
start like what you're gonna do.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
How about you, Ollie, before we close?
Uh, you know, um, I can only echo Stanley. I mean, but the other piece is very simply, um, hire people, embrace what they're capable of doing, and then let them do it. I'm not, I don't believe in the excuses that we are given for, why certain things get made and why certain other things don't get made. I just saw a movie, and I'm not saying it's a good movie or bad movie, but I just saw a movie online the other day about some woman that swallows like stuff.
Oh
You like
yeah.
literally like
Yeah.
she's sitting around the house and she picks up a screwdriver or something and she swallows it, and that's her problem. And all I was sitting there thinking is, how, what room did they go in and explain? I got
Right.
this movie about this girl that swallows stuff, and they're like, well, what else? That's it.
And they're like, "Oh, go ahead, do
And
that.
they're like,
You
hey,
better
all
make
right,
that
yeah, yeah,
movie."
yeah, it's 5 million. We'll get it
Yeah.
right out there. so
Yeah.
so that I go into rooms. I'm rarely, if ever, talking to a Black person. There's never any shorthand. Even if you're pitching shows about Black people, you're not talking to Black people. If you're a
Hmm.
woman, you're talking to white men. Like all of these things, the acceptance of humanity and embracing big ideas and being able to see you and accept you in a space that is a-traditional is something that we don't have in terms of structural support in the business. And so, yeah, I don't know what this bullshit theory is around what we think won't work. 90% of the things that people do in show business don't work. So why don't you try to fail with something new as opposed to doing, anyway.
Amen. Oh, that is an amazing note to end on. Thank you so much, Stanley, and thank you so much, Ali.
Hey.
Again, ooh.
No, I was just saying that like I said this to Ali at TIFF is that like I'm real sick of white mediocrity.
Yeah. Oh, amen. 100%. Very tired of seeing a white dude make a trash movie and then get a huge budget to make this franchise movie. Over it. Just absolutely over it,
Right.
Well, thank y'all so much for joining me today. This has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I'm so glad that we got to connect on this film and some other issues. And I'm so excited for more people to see this film and to have conversations about it. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Well,
Appreciate you, man. All right. Take care.
All right. Peace, everyone.
And if you are interested in finding out about more films that we have at NewFest this year, we have 120 films and other projects. Head on over to newfest.org right here. And you can also find out about more of our year-round programming. Again, my name is Desmond Thorne. Thank you so much for joining us and have a wonderful day.